Oh my God, you guys, I am so nervous. First of all, I'm so nervous, but let me just pull it together. Welcome back. Level Up in Life and Business podcast with your girl, Anthony Allen. You guys, I am so nervous because one of my really, really good friends is here. And when I tell you she is like a radio, just radio goddess, is that what they call it? You know, just seasoned in the game for years. Now she owns one of the most successful podcasts ever. So, all hell to you right now. All hell to you, RaqC. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. When you invited me on, I was like, it's literally going to be...
First of all, I've been trying to get her here for a long time.
But you know what? Like, our schedules finally,
aligned.
The thing is you be asking me things last minute. But you know what? Sometimes your real ones do that. You know? And luckily, my nanny was going to be available to work today. And I was like, you know what? Let me move a few things around on my schedule. And I had to make it happen because I love that you launched your own podcast.
Thank you.
I love podcasts that are effective and are literally giving you gems. And I think yours is one of them, especially for women and women in business. So I was like, I need to make time to go sit down with my girl.
Yes, you do. And that just goes back to why I wanted to have you on, because I am just so inspired by you.
Thank you.
I mean, just following your career. First of all, we've been, I want to say back when I first, not when I first started my company, but like initially when I was starting to get clients, you know, and they wanted to go on the radio. And the first person I would call was you.
Yeah.
I would call you to go on your shows, to go on your podcast, just to kind of like really just, you know, because you are the best. You are so good at what you do. Like, how did this come to be? So this whole radio personality, your personality per se, like, how did that come to be? Is it something that was just natural since you're a kid, or?
You know what? My energy has been in me since I was born.
No.
My mom told me a story when I was 6. I fainted in the Holy Spirit at church. And she's like, when you fainted, everybody panicked at church. And I knew at that moment, like, you were just blessed. And you know, when you tell kids things, they believe it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm different. I'm special. But the way I got into radio and started really developing my personality was I started interning at Power 106 in LA.
Oh, okay. How'd you get the internship?
So, girl, the way you get internships sometimes. So I actually went to a club in Hollywood. I used my sister's ID, so it wasn't a fake ID. It was my sister's ID.
Okay.
My sister's been my accomplice since we were young.
That's so funny.
And so she gave me her ID. I knew that there was going to be 2 radio personalities at this specific club, and I loved their show. And so I made my way to one of the radio personalities once I was in the club. And I could see like women were coming up to him and kind of like groupies. And I was like, I gotta stand out. And I don't want him to think I'm a groupie.
Right.
I want him to know, like, I want to be like him, you know, like he inspires me.
Totally.
So I went up to him and I was like, listen, I'm here because I want to do what you do one day. And he was like, and I could tell it kind of like stopped him in his tracks. And he was like, I was like, how can you help me? And he gave me his business card and he was like, send me a message if you're available this Friday. I would love to have you come to the studio and see us do our thing in the studio.
Wow.
So I called in sick from work. I skipped college that day because it was like my first year in college. And I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do.
That sounds like some Anthony Allen stuff right there.
Yeah,
girl.
In my head, I grew up thinking I was going to be a reporter on Univision or Fox.
Okay.
Because I've always been a hybrid, which is I'm American Latina. I've always spoke English. I've always spoke Spanish. So I've been influenced by the American culture and my Latin culture. So I thought I was going to be a news reporter. I would chase high-speed pursuits when I was young with my brother. Yes, girl. I am obsessed with high-speed pursuits.
And helicopters.
Okay? And I literally want to be a helicopter pilot. Anyways.
You can chase some pursuits in a helicopter for sure.
I know, but I think about my daughter now. And I'm like, damn, dude, my life insurance would probably go up.
That's so funny.
It's such a risky career. But anyway,
so
I ended up going to the studio, and I remember sitting there and seeing these guys in the studio on the air, rocking the mic and just giving away family 4-packs of Disneyland and just playing their favorite musics. And I was like, you guys get paid for this? And they were like, yeah. And I'm like, this could be a career. And they're like, yes. And that at that moment, I made an agreement with myself. Like, I was like, this is going to be my career. And it so happened that I was talking about, I was interested in an internship. And one of the guys that was sitting there, he worked in production. He goes, I'm actually looking for an intern right now in the production department.
Wow.
So it's about speaking up, saying
I
what
think it's about being a go-getter. Like, had you not, a lot of people, the ego wouldn't have even allowed them to walk up to somebody in the club and say, yo, this is what I'm trying to do.
Yes.
Very few of us are those kind of people that are just going to go out there and just do it without any type of ego. So that just speaks volumes to your personality and why you've made it so far. I mean,
this guy told me, he was like, I have a girl that's interested in interning, and she applied before you. And I was like, well, is she on it? Like, does she? And he goes, actually, her follow through hasn't been that like what it should be if somebody that wants an internship. And I said, well, I'm gonna call you every other day, because he goes, if she doesn't get back to me in 2 weeks, then the internship is yours. And I remember one day I was in community college. I got a call from an 818 number, and you know what they say, like, if an 818 number calls you, because that's where everything in the business is at, 818. So if an 818 number calls you, you pick up. So I remember I was walking on campus and I picked up, and it was him. He was like, hey, this is so-and-so from Power 106. I just want to let you know you've been cleared for your internship.
wow.
And that's where it started. And they told me I could only internship for 1 semester, which was 5 months. And I was like, ended up interning there 2 semesters, which was 10 months.
So when did you get we want to offer you the position?
Like, I want to say maybe like 6 months after graduating high school.
And as an intern, are you on air or no? You're not on air.
I was a production intern. So I was doing the commercials.
Oh, that's good. So you learned all the ins and outs of it before you actually got on air. Wow.
Yeah. So
that's the way to go.
Production is more like the back end of radio. I remember they would tell me like to read small little, like, tonight at 10 on Fox 11 News. He would be like, okay, RaqC, I need you to record that. And I'm like,
okay, wait. So this brings me to my point. Why does everybody in news have that voice, that news voice?
I don't know.
It's all the same. It's never anybody on there talking like me.
Yeah.
Why are they always like, hi, why?
I don't know.
You guys are trained to do that. You guys are trained.
No, because on the radio you could be yourself. But
but you still got it though. You still can turn it on, and it's like that.
Yeah, I definitely can. So I remember he would ask me, hey, I need you to do a quick tagline for this commercial. And I'm like, I'm gonna need you to get out of my boss for the internship. I'm like, I'm gonna need you to get out the room if you're gonna want me to record something. He was like, you're here learning. Like, I'm going to correct you if your recording is not right.
Absolutely.
So I was so embarrassed to hear my voice. I was so embarrassed to be put on the spot.
Yeah.
And so little moments like these is what builds your character and your personality. And he was like, you got to perform when I tell you to record, you need to record.
And you got to be on. And you got to be ready. And ever since then, you've just been on.
And ever since then, I always tell people, when you start with the internship anywhere, that is your foot in the door.
Absolutely.
What you do with that opportunity is on you. If you lose the opportunity, that's on you. You weren't hustling enough.
Absolutely.
You weren't speaking to enough people. You weren't putting yourself out there. But I remember they told me, since you're a production intern, you can't walk to the on-air personality studios. Like, that's off limit. That's programming.
Wow.
So like, you have to stay. So I remember I would stay when everybody would leave the studio. Like the station, everybody would leave the station like on a Friday.
Oh, you pulling a Kobe
And
Bryant,
I would walk to the on-air studios, and I'd be like, let's just say, I don't know who was on air at that time, DJ Felly Fell. And I'd be like, hey, Felly, can I pick up your phones? And he'd be like, sure, hang out. And I would be like, hello, what's your shout out? Like, I wanted to make myself available.
Yeah.
And people were able to see that in me. And so, and little by little, I knew that what I wanted to do was be on air.
So how did you transition to being this businesswoman? Like, you own a vending machine company that promotes healthy snacks, which is incredible. You have a very authoritative voice when it comes to health and wellness on your social channels. I mean, and then you have your clothing line. When were you like, okay, this entrepreneurial, like, this is the ticket for me. Like, this is what I want to do.
Man, you know what? I've had a lot of powerful women in my family, like my great grandmother, that have just been hustlers. It's just in our blood, I think. I mean, I was that little girl that had lemonade stands.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I also, when I left traditional radio 10 years ago, I was forced to pivot. Because I didn't like the politics of traditional radio anymore. I stepped into podcasting about maybe 2 years after leaving traditional radio. me and my girl Ruby. I don't know.
Yes, RaqC and Ruby, honey.
RaqC
I
and
brought some
Ruby.
people on your show before.
Yes, you
yes,
did. Oh
I
my
did.
God.
I
so
did.
we had the first bilingual podcast with CBS, and CBS didn't know what to do with us.
First of all, the fact that you had a podcast deal, okay? Like the fact that you were actually signed to like a podcast network is incredible. Like back then, like now it's starting to be a thing, but back then it was not a thing.
It was not a thing,
It
but they
was
didn't know
not
what
a
to do with
thing.
us because I think the podcasting space at that time was so new.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I transitioned into the digital space at like the perfect time.
Yeah.
Because now it's like super saturated.
Yeah.
We got into the space and we were just like, these people don't know what to do with the bilingual podcast. And it's like, it's not rocket science. You sell to English advertisers and Spanish advertisers.
Yeah.
Why is it so difficult? And so when I started bringing clients to CBS, and I started realizing, like, girl, you're doing all the work.
Yeah.
You're the one bringing revenue to see, like, okay, I could do this on my own.
Yeah,
Because if I'm the
absolutely.
one doing it and these salespeople can't do it, then I might as well just create my own show.
All right.
And so then that's when my sister and I, maybe like 2 years later, started talking about having our own podcast.
Okay, so what tips would you give me as a new podcaster? Give me a couple of tips on like just starting monetizing. Like, what are the ins and outs of podcasting that we don't know, that our audience does not know? Like, you are like the podcasting like guru here. I need to know. Like, give me some tips.
So you know what? I would say number one thing is consistency.
Okay.
Like people love to go to a podcast that they love and they like to see new episodes.
Okay.
They like to see new content. They like to see you interviewing people or having a dope solo episode.
Okay.
So consistency would be the number one thing. I think a lot of people, when they think of podcasting, they take it as like a hobby.
Yes.
And it's not a hobby.
Yes.
It's a brand that you're creating.
Yes.
So you have to take it serious.
Yes.
You know, it's not just like, hey, it's just it's serious.
Yes.
So consistency, number one thing. Another thing is like you have to really believe in your content. You have to believe that what you're even though it's an oversaturated market right now, what you bring to the table has value.
Absolutely.
And you have to speak
creating value.
creating
Yes,
value 100%.
I always say that.
And like for example, me and my sister, our first 12 seasons are free. Like you could find our first 12 seasons full episodes on Spotify, on Apple Music, on iHeartMedia, on all the platforms. And up until we were like, you know what? We are providing valuable information and valuable guests, right? And valuable guests are not always celebrities. Like valuable guests could be a trauma coach where you're just like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
never heard
Knew
about this.
existed.
Or like
Absolutely.
a therapist or
I
like
learned so much from the podcast that I listen to, the guests that they have on, people that they're interviewing. It's like an educational experience. I
Yeah.
always walk away with some sort of knowledge, and I think those are the best ones for real.
those are the best ones because you want to leave people better than how they came to your
Absolutely.
podcast. I love to feel like I gain knowledge from
Yeah.
something. I'm smarter because I heard this or I read this book. And so my sister and I, we are now behind a paid wall called Patreon. And so people subscribe to our podcast just like they subscribe to Netflix. And so every week, what do they expect? A new episode, bonus content, exclusive pictures of like I post a lot of different pictures of like me and my daughter on there, right? So you know how we feel about putting our kids.
So
in,
basically, it's really about your community.
it's about we have built such an amazing community, and we call it the Sister Squad.
I believe you.
because our podcast is straight up Sisters of Podcast, so we're like, okay, so this is the Sister Squad.
Yeah.
So you really have to take it serious.
Yeah.
It is. It's an extension of your brand, and I mean, you're the queen of that.
Yeah.
Take your personal brand serious. Like
Yeah.
polish it up.
Yeah.
It's not a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't take yourself serious, no one's gonna take you serious.
No one's gonna take you seriously. I always say, people say, but I don't have this. I don't have a camera. I don't have this. If this is something that you want to do, not even podcasting, even just from being a content creator, being a radio person, whatever it is, being a chef, I don't care. Invest in that.
Yeah.
Invest in that. Really put your all into it. Like I don't care what it is. I always say, like, people are visual people. We see visuals first. Like, invest in a good camera, babe.
Yeah.
Like, step it up. Like, give me something to look at. You know, give me something so then that I can tune in and want more, right? So I definitely understand, like, the whole branding thing is like,
Yeah.
it's key.
Yes.
No, it's key. But you can start off anytime, anywhere. Like, there are so many, it's so tangible nowadays to just be able to start. Sometimes I record my podcast from home with my mic from my iPhone, As long as it's clear,
Yeah.
I will do a solo episode if I can get to the studio. If I just can't, and I have, because I do want that consistency.
Yeah,
so
it's
I will pop
important.
out a solo episode at home in my office with the quickness, you know, just to kind of create that level of consistency. But also just knowing, just using what's at my fingertips. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I definitely feel you on that. So. Okay, so we're talking about your businesses and we're talking about podcasting. What's going on with Brazen?
So Brazen, my apparel line.
Yes.
So Brazen, I launched it like 8 years ago.
Okay.
And so I wanted to create an apparel line because I've always been a bilingual person.
Okay.
And so it's very natural for me to go back and forth from English to Spanish.
You do it all the time.
It's what we do. I mean, there's an artist.
On your socials, you do it all the time. I'll be watching you doing something in Spanish and you go back to English. And I'm like, what did she just say?
Yeah, you know, a lot of people are able to say, did you just say this? Like that. I've been able to, when I was on traditional radio, we would get a lot of blacks, Persians, and whites that would listen to this bilingual radio station and they would say, I learned Spanish because of you, or I'm learning English because of you, because of the bilingualness.
Wow.
So it's natural. From Becky G, who's an artist, she said it perfectly. She said, we're the 200%ers. We're 100% American and we're 100% Latinos, but we just happen to live in the United States. So that's very normal for a Latino that's been raised in California in the United States, right?
Oh, wow.
Like, it's the best of both worlds. So I was like, let me come up with an apparel line that really embodies that, like inspiration, motivation, and bilingualism.
Okay.
So that's what I did. Hats, glasses, t-shirts, hoodies. I've done like capsule collections. So right now I'm literally about to go through a rebrand where
Whoa.
like I just hired a whole team that I'm working with. Like we're planning things quarterly.
Good for you.
You would be so proud, Anthony.
Good for you.
We're gonna do like quarterly drops. I mean, it's gonna be so organized. I've been kind of lagging on it.
Yeah.
But I needed to. I've been having just different meetings and like with different people that I thought I wanted to work with, but I'm like, nah, like I don't know. I'm not about that percentage split, or I need to have control of my IP. Like you have to, you know what's good for you.
I was gonna say, in a world that's like really still oversaturated by or dominated by men when it comes to the industries that we work in, how are you able to stay so firm and so strong and like stand on 10 toes, you know, about like what it is that you want? Like where is that coming from?
Oh, because I know my shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like my experience throughout my life and my career has taught me, like, you need to own your intellectual property. Like, that's super important for me. So somebody that tries to sway me out of that, or I just feel like, no, that's not the direction I'm trying to go in, and it just doesn't align with me, and it makes my whole nervous system feel off. I'm just like, I can't work with
So
somebody
you go
like
with your
this.
gut for sure.
I go with my gut, and I don't need to convince you to think my way either. It could be like a beautiful intersection of
marriage,
creativeness, and it's just like, okay, yeah, you get my vision. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I stand 10 toes on things because I know what I see for me and my future, and I know what's worked and I know what hasn't worked.
So do you have a management team, or are you just like someone that handles everything on your own?
You know what? I have a business manager that helps me more. Like I love more like, so some people have talent managers, and some people have business managers, and some people have both.
Yes.
Right now I only have a business manager, and she helps me.
Yeah.
She helps me. She jumps on calls with me. And sometimes we're like, that didn't feel right. Or you know what? That feels like a good opportunity. So I guess she's kind of like
the manager.
She's kind of helping manage me, but she's ultimately like, RaqC, you know what's best for for your career and for your brand. And then sometimes she'll be like, no, that's a hard no. Like that's a hard no. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me why that's a hard no.
Yeah.
And sometimes even though she thinks it's a hard no, I'm like, no, I disagree with that. So it's kind of cool to have somebody to bounce things off of. But I definitely, one thing I learned about stepping away from corporate, right? Because, you know, I work for a big corporate media company, is I would challenge a lot of the men that were my bosses. And it was justifiable because I was one of their biggest talents, and I would see the revenue that I would bring in. And I mean, I would see my own revenue, but I would see the revenue that the company was making off of me. And so I'd be like, I deliver results. And when you know you're a person that delivers results, you have to start betting on yourself.
No, absolutely.
Because otherwise people are going to take advantage of you. They're going to run circles around you. And I have mentors. I really believe in mentorship, whether it's like you could be somebody's mentor.
Absolutely.
But I believe in like life mentors, financial mentors, spiritual mentors, business mentors. I never move throughout my life. I always have a mentor at different stages of my life. Like I could have mom mentors right now because I'm a mom.
Yeah.
You know? So mentorship in life is so important, but especially in business, because if not, you will have people running circles around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't know everything. You don't know everything. It's always good to have someone that you can bounce an idea off of, run a contract by. So throwing motherhood into the mix, you got all of that going on. And then now you are a single mom to this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful baby girl.
Yes.
How are you managing it all? Like what, how is it making you go harder? Is it like taking a step back and like making you focus more on time at home? Like how are you juggling it all?
Man, you know what? So I didn't start thinking about motherhood till like later on in life, right? And I always envisioned myself being stable, like when I had a kid.
What, like the husband, the picket
No,
fence,
no,
all
like
that?
I wanted financial stability,
Okay.
and I wanted a home,
Okay.
right? And so I knew that I wanted that because I've always heard from people like kids are expensive, you know, and they are. But so
They're not.
They're
not.
They're
really.
not, but they
No.
are. But you know, I'm always shopping for my daughter, girl. I be
That's a
shopping
you.
for
That's
my
a
daughter
you
more
problem.
than me.
That's a you thing.
That's a me problem.
That's a you thing.
They're not that bad. They're not that bad though.
bad.
But I did want like stability. I wanted like a home. I didn't want to live in an apartment. I wanted like a backyard. I wanted to live in a cul-de-sac. Like I had a vision
Of how you wanted it to be.
of how I wanted it to be. And thankfully it's like that for me, you know? Thankfully also I have the freedom to spend a lot of time with my daughter, but at the same time, it's like I do have to go harder for her. But I've always gone hard. So without my daughter or with my daughter, I've always been that person that's gonna go hard because that's who I am as a woman, as a Latina, as RaqC. That's just in my DNA to go hard.
So would you say that motherhood is like your identity or just like a part of your identity? I know
It's a part of my identity,
Yeah, because
girl,
you know
'cause
how
it's-
some moms are just like,
I'm a
I'm a
mom.
mom. No disrespect.
No, but you know what? I honestly look at that. I mean, listen, and some moms are just stay-at-home moms, and that's a full-time job.
That's a full-time
too.
job. No,
girl,
it is.
That's many roles.
I think what I don't like is I think I don't respect the narrative that you can't be a mom and you can't be a working mom. I think that you can be whatever kind of mom you want to be, first of all. So like even with me having a lot of kids, back to back to
how
back
do you do it?
back to back to back.
You're an inspiration, Anthony.
Thank you. But it's just like, first of all, I choose to be 100% a mom, but I still, to my core, like I am a businesswoman.
Yes,
Like
that's
that is
exactly
just
how I
like
am.
who I am, and how I choose to parent is incorporating the two.
Yeah.
Like my office is now at home. Okay, it's not outside of the home anymore. Now my office is inside of my house, and you know, like just little pivots like that are things that I have to adjust because I'm very much a mother, but then I'm very much an entrepreneur as well.
Yes.
So I don't like the narrative that you have to give up everything for your children. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't like that
I don't
narrative
like that
either.
narrative because that's not me. So then I feel like, okay, I'm not a good mom then.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
no, yeah, I see
but
what
do you
you're
know what I'm
saying.
saying? Like how other moms can paint a picture that you're like, if you don't stay at home, you're not a stay-at-home mom. You don't do everything all around the clock for your kid. It's like, so now you're questioning your own worth in motherhood. You know? So
yeah, I'm thankfully not like that. Like at the
yeah, I'm
core
not.
of me, I am RaqC. I am a businesswoman. I am a lover of life, and I am a voice for my community. But I'm also a mom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I became a mom later on in life, and
you
that's
love it.
okay too.
And you
know what I'm
love it.
saying? And
I
I
could-
love it,
yeah,
and
I
I'm
could see
patient
it all
with my
over
daughter.
you.
And I don't take my frustrations out on my daughter. Like you know what? I've healed. I've gone to therapy. Like my daughter is my biggest blessing. I'm so grateful that God gave me responsibility to guide her through this life, you know? She's lucky to have me.
Okay,
I'm just letting her.
okay.
When she sees this in the future, she's lucky to have a cool mom like me.
Oh my God. Me and my mother were just talking the other day. I was like, my kids are so lucky.
Your kids are so
She was
lucky.
like, dude, they are so lucky. I was like, first of all, they're like so lucky. Okay,
Yeah.
they're so lucky.
And you know what? There's nothing wrong with saying that and owning that. And like I always tell people, you got to be your own cheerleader.
No, yeah,
like you
for
can't
sure.
wait for these people, for anybody like your husband or your mom, or to be like you. Like you have to know how dope, how amazing, how able you are to do all these things that life has brought. Like if something comes into your space, it's because you're totally capable of doing it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
And so I love having moms and friend moms like you that are like, yeah, like my kids are lucky because girl, there's some kids out there that are not loved.
Absolutely.
That are abandoned, that they don't even know what it is to get a hug or a kiss from their kid, from their creators. And that won't be my daughter. You know, my daughter will be allowed to be creative and expressive and what makes your heart happy? Like, you know what I mean? I'm not your like traditional mom that's like, you have to go to college and you have to like, okay, let's do what makes you feel alive.
Absolutely.
Is the way I want to talk to my daughter. Like you want to open your own nail salon? Okay, then let's work towards opening that.
Yeah, like you can do it. Like
you
you
can do
attitude
whatever
for sure.
you
And she's
desire.
learning that through you. I mean, just seeing how you navigate through life and your businesses and how you're able to do what you do. I'm sure not right now she understands, but as she gets older, she'll definitely understand. So that is just such a blessing to be able to have your own brand that is fortunate enough to fuel your life. And, you know, now you're raising a daughter and you're comfortable, and hats off to you.
And you know what? I will say to the moms, like, I don't get mom guilt whenever I go out.
Oh, I do.
I don't. Whenever I go out and I have dinner, because I'm with my daughter a lot. I spend a lot of time with her. I spend a lot of quality time with her. So when I go out to get a massage, to get my pedicure, to get my nails done, to get my hair.
We know you take care of yourself, girl.
I don't feel guilty.
Girl, you
People are
take
like,
care of yourself, honey.
You don't get mom guilt? I'm like, absolutely not.
I don't get mom guilt about that. But
What do you get mom guilt about?
So, for example, last week, I had a client in town. I had to do back-to-back days of work with this particular client from sun up to sundown. I was not at home.
Oh.
So when I would leave, my baby was sick. I had to leave her. She was crying. She just wanted me. And I wasn't there. And on the way, you know, when I was in the car, I felt bad. I normally don't feel bad because I normally am not in those situations because of my schedule. I'm able to like kind of work things out. But this was a special case. And yes, I did have mom guilt. I'm not going to lie. I felt really, really bad.
Yeah.
But I was able to put on my big girl panties and just move on with it. But there are times, but a lot of times I do try to make sure that my kids travel with me. Like I spoil myself in a sense that like I'm not taking a trip longer than one night. And if I do, then they have to come with me. All of them. I mean, my 13-year-old, my 2-year-old, everybody has to come.
Yeah, I do
Even my
notice if
husband.
you do
if
business
I
trips,
travel, my
it's
whole
like one
family
day.
has to come. We are like so connected and just like, first of all, like I was out at a dinner meeting and my husband's calling me like, what are we eating? I'm like, oh my God, I forgot. I have to like Postmates you guys something because like I was working, but that's how like we're just so like we move like a unit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like wow. Yeah, I do have the mom guilt, but we can have a whole nother podcast episode.
Yeah, we
on
can,
that,
for
which
sure.
we will. I'm gonna definitely have you back, and thank you so much for I just am just so gracious to you for taking time out of your day to come here. So before we leave, I want you to leave our viewers with one thing you do to level up in life and one thing you do to level up in business.
Okay, one thing I do to level up in life. Am I talking to you or am I talking to the
You
cat
talking
too?
to whoever. And you guys, I'm asking her this on the spot. She did not prepare this, so I am so curious.
One thing I do to level up in business, I do a few things.
Okay.
I have mentors
Okay.
that help level me up, and
Okay.
I reach out.
Okay.
Because I think sometimes when you do run your own show and you are a boss and you are used to kind of running things in your own way, you could get to the point where you're just like, man, I should have all the answers.
Yeah.
But I don't. So let me put my ego to the side and reach out and be like, hey, I'm not understanding this, or I'm having trouble in
You
this
ask
department.
questions. You ask for help. You
So-
lean on your tribe.
I reach out, I read books, and girl, I pray. but I reach out to people when I have questions. I don't pretend to know it all. And I love that about me because I don't. There's people that I know that make way more money than me and have a lot more than me. And so those are the people that I have access to, and I'm grateful that I have access to them because I learn from them.
Yeah.
I have friends, the people that I surround myself with, especially business people, they inspire me.
Wow.
And I'm not the person that's like afraid to say like, Anthony, you inspire me as a mom. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, you always give us our flowers
Why
all the
would I
time.
do that? If you inspire me, I'm going to tell you. Like it's literally coming from that place of realness, of trueness. Like you inspire me. So I reach out to my mentors and I read a lot.
Okay. And
I try to educate myself on the subjects that I want to become smarter on in business, right?
Okay.
And then in my personal life, what do I do to level up?
Because I follow you, I know. I know
what would you say I do?
I would say you eat very healthy. You're always active. You're moving around. I would say you always take care of yourself. You have a very heavy self-care regimen. Okay.
No, but seriously, one thing I take really serious, and this I take really serious, and I hope people start taking it serious in this year too, or today as they're watching this episode, is I never get tired of feeling good, right? Because when you're sick or you're not feeling good, that gets tiring. You're like, I'm sick of being sick, right? Like I've been sick for 7 days. I'm over it.
Yeah.
But you never hear anybody complain like, I'm so sick of feeling good, ever. Do you?
No,
exactly.
I don't.
So I'm real big on being consistent in eating right and drinking my supplements.
Yeah.
I remember I had a friend come over and he was looking at my counter and he goes, girl, I know you don't take all those supplements in one day. And I was like, maybe not all of them, but I do rotate them.
Yeah.
And he goes, you know what? Like, I actually believe you.
Yeah.
He goes, because like I'm always energetic. I'm always like, I rarely get sick, right? Not saying that I'm superwoman, but I mean, girl, when you don't take care of yourself and the way you eat and you don't stay hydrated. And another thing that I do is I stretch a lot. I'm a yoga teacher too.
That's so important.
I stretch a lot. And so, I mean, I wake up in the morning from my bed and I touch my toes. That's like my test with myself. Like if I can't touch my toes, that means I haven't been stretching enough. I'm not flexible.
I don't think I can touch
After
my
this
toes.
show, you guys, we're going to touch our toes.
I don't know.
But I like to stretch a lot and I like to eat right and drink my supplements because when you're sick, you can't do anything. Girl, my daughter needs me.
Yeah.
And being bedridden ain't gonna get me nowhere.
Ain't gonna get you nowhere. So you guys heard it from RaqC, what she does to level up in life and business. Thank you so much for
Anthony.
coming.
I love this studio set.
Oh,
it's so official. It's such a vibe.
Thank you. Coming from you, that means a lot. You guys, follow where can they find you?
You can find me, my website is RaqC, RaqC, RaqConline.com, which has all my social handles, and most of my handles are RaqC's World, RaqCS World.
And
RaqC's
I'm going to link
World.
all that in the show notes, and you guys be sure to follow her, engage with her, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Oh my God. Shout outs to you, girl. I'm so happy you started your podcast.
I know.
This was long overdue.
I know.
Love
Give
you,
me a
boo.
hug.
Oh my God.